Thank you for choosing Iconic. We are honored that you have chosen us to assist you on your CNC journey. From our website, you're going to see that we have created many resources to help you on this little expedition as you learn the basic functionality of the software that we provide with your machine, as well as the basic machine operation techniques. This particular video series consists of four basic instructional videos in ArtCAM Express. The first one that we're going to cover off right now will be basically getting started with ArtCAM Express, just an introduction to some of the tools that are available to you. The next three videos after this will teach you the basic functionality of the geometry tools. That is the second video series. The third one is what we refer to as bitmap to vector conversion, where you can import JPEG and PNG images into the software and convert them into vectors for creating toolpath. And then the final video in this series is how to import and create a machining toolpath with a 3D model. So let's get started with ArtCAM. As you can see on my screen, we have ArtCAM Express open. This is ArtCAM Express 2015 R2, which is the most recent iteration of the software as this video was produced. If you're using a slightly newer or a slightly older version of ArtCAM Express, you'll find that most of the functionality is quite similar. You may find a little bit of a difference in terms of where perhaps some of the icons are located, or the screen may be slightly different, but for the most part I think you'll find most of the functionality pretty similar from one iteration of the software to the other. So if you look down the left hand side, you can see that we have the option to select a new model or open an existing model, and through the course of these videos you're going to see how to use each of those. Below that is the most recent files that have been opened, so you can see the last four projects that I've been working on. If you have nothing there, it's just very simply because you're just getting started and you haven't created a file yet. Below that, you see under Other Features, there is Mill Wizard. Mill Wizard is a function in the software that will allow you to import a 360-degree model, and by that I would use a couple of examples of, for example, a guitar body. If you were going to machine a guitar body top and bottom, then Mill Wizard will allow you to bring that 3D design file into the software and essentially slice the file in half so you have a top and a bottom, and it will create machining toolpath for both. Another example might be a rope turning or say a statue head where you've got a 360-degree model. In that case, typically those are machined in 90-degree increments, and so the part would need to be indexed in 90-degree increments, but you could machine a 360-degree model on your Iconic machine. Below Mill Wizard, you can see is what's new. Basically, any new functions or features in the software that were added since the last iteration of the software are included in the What's New section. In this case, we're going to assume it's all what's new for you, so we're going to kind of show you as much as we can in this video series. And then below that, you can see under Upgrades, there are three options. If I click on the first one, Modules, you'll see over on the right-hand side, there are several modules that you can purchase and add different functions to your software. For example, here's one that's a nesting function. So if you wanted to nest a number of small parts on your table, the software has the ability to do it manually. The nesting module would actually automate that process for you. And you can see that there are different options. Here's Bitmap Layers. For example, if you were going to be using several bitmap images on a single project, the bitmap layers will allow you to put each one of those models on a separate layer, open them and close them at will. Once again, most of that function is available in ArtCAM Express, but the modules just make it a little bit easier. And then with each of the modules, you can click on Learn More. There's a quick video to give you a description of what the module would offer you in terms of functionality. And then if you want to purchase that module, just click Add. It will go to the ArtCAM website where you can purchase it, and it will basically you'll be receiving an updated license file, which would then add that additional function to your software. Beyond that, you can also see that there's ArtCAM Insignia and ArtCAM Pro. These links would take you to the ArtCAM website that's appropriate to the software you're interested in learning about. And basically what Insignia or Pro will do is it will add full 3D functionality to your software. So ArtCAM Express, the software that you have, has the ability to import a 3D model, and there are over 1,000 available with your Iconic machine that are included in the software. But it doesn't have the ability to design in 3D. ArtCAM Insignia and ArtCAM Pro give you that full 3D functionality. So let's get started with the software. We're going to click on New Model. And as you can see, when I click on New Model, my Size for New Model window will open. And I have the ability to change the height and the width of my material. Now, you'll notice that this illustration in the center of our workspace is interactive. So if I change my height to 18 inches, make that 18 and not 118, you can see that it changes the length of my material. So the height, as you're standing in front of your iconic machine, the height is from the front to the back. That's the y-axis, front to back. Your width is from left to right, or your x-axis. And you'll notice that the z or the z-axis is not indicated here. We actually set the material thickness up a little bit later on as we're working on our project. So we're going to set our height at 12 inches and our width at 12 for this particular project. And you'll notice on the illustration, you see that the origin position is located in the top left corner. And by very simply clicking on any one of the other corners or the center, I can change that origin position to wherever I'd like it to be. Now with the iconic machine, I tend to keep my origin position in the top left corner because the home position for the iconic machine is in the top left corner. So when I'm setting my material on my machine, I typically set it up so that the top left corner of the material is at the 0, point on the machine, which means that when I home the machine, my X and my Y coordinates are already exactly where I want them to be, which is at the start or the 0 position for the particular project. It's also worthy of note that this material size that you see here is the actual material size that you'll be working with. So if you're cutting a project smaller than the material size that you're starting with, that this is the material size. So whatever your board is, or the piece of plastic that you're cutting, it should match the size that you're setting up in the workspace here. Over on the right hand side, you see that we have the option to set up resolution. And resolution essentially is only applicable if you're working with a 3D model. In this particular project, we won't be, but we will be later in Project 4. But in Project 1 and 2, we're not working with a 3D model. So the resolution really doesn't have a lot of impact at this point. Basically, resolution will define how much detail you're going to get out of a 3D model. I typically keep the setting at around 1000 by 1000, as you can see. 980, 960, 1020, 1040, anywhere in that range is fine. It doesn't have to be exactly 1000 by 1000, but it's a good setting to get a significant amount of detail out of most 3D models, but it also doesn't put a great demand on the processing of on your computer. It's still able to handle that without too much trouble. You can see I can change the units from inches to millimeters. In this case, I'm going to be working in inches. And lastly, I click OK, and that will open up our workspace. Now, the first thing I always check is I always want to make sure that my 0 points intersect. So you can see the 0 here at the top and the 0 over on the left are intersecting at the top left corner, so I know my origin position is exactly where I'd like it to be. Now, if you look down the left-hand side and across the top, you see all of the different tools that are available to you in ArtCAM Express. A couple of things I want you to note. First of all, as I move my cursor over each one of these and let it dwell just for a second, you'll see that I get a little flyout that will give me a brief description of what each one of these tools is going to do. Typically, if you look at the icon, it's a pretty good indication, but just allow the tool to dwell there for a second, and it will indicate to you exactly what that tool is about to do. The other thing that you'll notice is that the tools are categorized. So here's fill tools, here's vector creation tools, here's down here is vector editing tools. Each one of these little tool bars is actually got a little dotted line along the left, or over here it's across the top. If I move my cursor over that and put my left mouse button down, I can drag that and move it anywhere on the screen that I choose. And I may want to do that if I want to customize my screen. If I'm working on a particular project and I would like to have one of these tools very close to where my workspace is, then I can do that. The other thing you'll notice is as I open these, it also created an X in the right corner, and as you might guess, if I click on it, it will delete those. One of the ones that's most commonly deleted is this project pane over here on the right. Now, sometimes I will actually delete it on purpose, like that, in order to open up my workspace. You can see I've got a nice wide workspace here without a lot of clutter on my screen. Sometimes I'll actually do it by accident, where I might just inadvertently delete that project pane. If I want to reestablish that, which at some point I'm going to need that project pane, just go over here to the gray area up here in the right-hand corner, right-click, and you'll see that the project pane is right here, and it's not checked off. If I click on that, my project pane appears. The other thing that you'll notice is that the project pane, while it's docked over here on the right, can be moved. If I grab this gray area above at the top of the project pane and drag it to the left, you'll see that it now unlocks itself from the dock, and I can move this anywhere I want. Now, of course, the disadvantage is it's now a lot of times blocking other tools. If I want to re-dock that project pane, very simply drag it back over, and as my cursor hovers over the docking station and I release it, it locks it back into place. Now, what about those two toolbars that we already deleted? If you're anything like me, you may have even forgotten what they're called. Well, in some cases, you may have deleted something and not even know exactly what it was that you deleted. If you want to reestablish the screen exactly the way it was when you started, very simply click on Window, click on Reset Layout, and go back to Reset Layout and go back to Standard, and the screen will once again reappear the way we had it when we first opened the software. You can see all of our icons. Sometimes your screen resolution will cause these to shift a little bit, but the most important thing is everything is back where we wanted it to be. So I'm just going to line these back up so they're in a nice even row. But all of my toolbars that I had when I started are now back. Last thing I want to show you is, as you can see, some of these icons have a little arrow in the bottom left-hand corner, and that's an indication that there are other functions, several functions, at least more than one on each one of those tools. So if, for example, this one here, if I hover over it, you see it says Center in Model. If I push my left mouse button down, you'll see there are actually 8 different functions within this one tool. The first one being Center in Model. The second one is aligning my object just to the left side and to the right, to the top, to the bottom, and so on. So 8 different functions within the one tool, but each one somewhat similar than the other. But what it basically, ArtCAM has done, is it sort of categorized all these similar tools into one icon, so it doesn't create a lot of clutter. As you can see, that it's a very uncluttered looking screen. There are a few tools to learn, but it doesn't look overwhelming. If you look at other CAD software programs, oftentimes you'll see literally hundreds of icons on the desktop, and ArtCAM has done a very good job of categorizing things so it's easy to file. Easy to find. Last thing I wanted to mention to you is that there is no autosave function in ArtCAM Express. So as you're working on a project, it's always a very good idea as you start to click Save, name your file. In this case, I'm going to call it Test, and I will just put that on my desktop, and I'm going to save that, and you'll see over in my project pane here under project it says test, and also across the top of my screen it indicates test. So I've named my file, so anytime that I'm going to exit ArtCAM it should prompt me to save my file, and I can make sure I save the changes. So just a good methodology just to make sure that you're saving a file as you work along. So that's the basic overview of the screen in ArtCAM Express. In the next video we're going to start into project 1, which is the basic use of the geometry tools.